Greetings, folks! A couple of weeks ago, I traveled down to Walnut Creek, California to meet the man, the legend, Charles Niebuhr, and to purchase this from him, a 1920s Hercules Speed King racing bike. This bike is a bit of a mystery. Built along the lines of an old path racer with that classic early slack geometry, I was able to positively predate the bike from its original rear hub, which assures us that it's pre-1931, so it's most likely from sometime in the 1920s. Charles had already done a significant amount of restoration by having the frame repainted and having a few of the other components replated, but he distinctly remembered the original decals labeled the bike as a Speed King and had an image of an old biplane on them. A thorough scouring of the internet turned up nothing except one auction record from back in 2011, which shows an old Speed King bicycle with those very same biplane decals manufactured by Hercules in England. There are lots of similarities between that auction bike and the bike we have here, including the same rear dropouts, crank, stem, and bars, so I'm willing to accept that this is indeed a Hercules Speed King. The only problem is that through a careful examination of early Hercules catalogs dating back to 1930, we find there is absolutely no mention of a Speed King model. I can clearly see the model name and the Hercules England decal on the auction bike, so I know that Hercules did make a Speed King model, but perhaps it just predated this 1930 catalog, which is the earliest catalog I could find. I suppose it's also possible that this was an export-only model, so it may not have shown up in the British catalogs. That might also explain why some of the components are American in manufacture. Speaking of which, this is what was left of the original saddle. I contacted Rudy at RHM Saddles about restoring it back to functional condition, and Rudy actually recognized it as this: a person's 4-wire track racer saddle made in the United States. Thankfully, Rudy agreed to undertake the saddle restoration, even taking a crack at recreating the original stamping, so I'll be sending it off to him soon. This is the original seat post, which is a Lucky 7 or L style post, but I've never seen one quite like it. Charles has already had this re-chromed, so it's ready to go. And these are the original bars and stem. As you can probably tell, these have not been previously restored, so I'll be sending them out to a local plating shop to be prepped and re-chromed. I thought it was interesting that the last person to ride the bike, way back who knows when, had the bars flipped up in a bull's horn type position. I always thought this was something kids did when they couldn't reach the drops on a racing bike, but after recently seeing some vintage literature on a 1940s Malvern Star path racer, it looks like this was actually a thing. No, I won't be leaving them like this. They will be turned back down into the normal drop bar position. This is the original Crankset, which Charles has already had re-chromed, and which is identical to the Crankset seen on the other Speed King, which was sold at auction in 2011. And this is the original rear wheel from the wheel set. The hub is original to the bike and is a Morrow coaster brake hub, which predates the Morrow letter designations for year of manufacture, so it predates 1931. The rims are 28-inch steel-clad wood, so they're designed to take 28-inch single-tube tubular tires. Unfortunately, there's currently only one source for these tires, a gentleman by the name of Robert Dean, who advertises them as for display only. There are folks that are riding on Dean's tires, but since I fully intend to make this bike a rider and to put a good amount of miles on it, I've already contacted Noah Stutzman, a master old school wheelwright, who's building me a set of wood clincher rims for the bike in 700C, so I'll be able to use any number of modern tires. Charles also passed on a few cool bits and pieces that were originally on the bike, like this original 1937 bike license, which I believe is from Palo Alto, California, and this nice vintage reflector. Both will eventually find their way back onto the bike. That's it for part 1 of this restoration adventure. I'll be posting updates as the restoration continues. Thanks for watching, folks, and good riding.